Good evening. We have to have a public hearing, and this is over one item, which is a budget to amend insurance proceeds for the fire department radio tower and the roof repairs. These are insurance proceeds. If you would like to comment on this item and this item alone, the floor is open. I'd ask you to come to the podium, give your name and address for the record, and you can address the commission. We'll recognize you. If you'd like to talk about any other subject, we will have citizen comments again at our regularly scheduled meeting at 6:30, but this is a legal requirement for any ordinance read on the second reading for this item. I'm not seeing a long line. I'm not seeing anyone. So with that, we will adjourn until 6:30 for our regular meeting. Good evening, everyone. This is the Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners. This is our regularly scheduled meeting. I will go ahead and call this meeting to order, declare a quorum is present. We have all 5 elected officials here. Second item of business is to set the agenda. If there's no objections, we will set the agenda as published. Hearing no objections, we have a somewhat short 74-page packet, 2 items on unfinished business. We got 5 new ordinances and 3 resolutions to go through tonight. So by typical standards, I'd say a short agenda. If you want to follow along, we've got agendas in the wire baskets on the side, or if you're at home, you can follow along online. Our next order of business is our invocation and pledge of allegiance. I'd ask our fire chief, Chief Jamie Luffman, if you'd come forward and lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Thank you, Mayor. If you would pray with me, please. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you with a humble and grateful hearts tonight, dear Lord. We ask that you lift up those who are seated in places of authority in our city, these elected officials and the city administration. Please give them wisdom on the difficult issues they are discussing and deciding on the citizens' behalf. We ask that each representative would submit themselves to you, God, the ultimate authority in each one of our lives. We pray that they would use their responsibility to help secure peaceful and quiet living in our community while respecting the proper role of your institution of family and church. We ask, dear Father, to strengthen the elected officials and the city administrator with the courage to continue making the most of the blessings you have bestowed upon our city. Each member of this commission and administration has shown the ability to turn 5 talents into 10, just as from the parable in Matthew 24. And may they reap the reward of your response. Well done, thy good and faithful servant. Dear Lord, as the psalmist has written, when he's singing to you, he maketh wars to seek unto the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow. He cutteth the spear in two. He burned the chariot in the fire. We pray your intervention in the current war and ask for your mercy for those so terribly affected. We continue to pray for you to break the heart of the aggressor. May he see his misdeeds and be shamed. Father, bless those in the community that need your health, financial, and spiritual lifting. May they glorify your name for what you will do for each of your children in need. If they do not know you, may they come to do so. May they know the sacrifice of your Son for the remittance of their sin, that they may know peace everlasting in your presence for all eternity. And may they know that your Son is the only way to receive salvation. For it is in his name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from our regularly scheduled meeting on March 14th. Is there a motion? Have a motion. Second. Any questions, comments, corrections? All right, hearing none. All in favor of the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. I got one correction on that. That is 4 in favor and 1 abstention. Next item on the agenda is citizen comments. At this point, we will open up the floor for citizen comments. We will recognize you for 3 minutes. I ask for your name and address for the record. I ask that you keep the topic related to city business and not on individuals themselves. We can't answer questions from the table, but this is your opportunity to make comments. Unlike the Planning Commission, we don't take comments on the individual items, so this is your opportunity to address the board. All right, seeing none, we will close citizen comments and move on to commissioner reports and comments. I recognize at this point Vice Mayor Ray Justice.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to take just a minute and invite some folks tomorrow at 1:30 here at City Hall. We're having a meeting with the Urban Growth Boundaries Coordinating Committee. And for those of you that may have sounded like Greek to, This committee is the committee that will determine the urban growth boundary that we have that is actually designed from a law back in 2011, 10, 11, something like that.
All predates that.
Yeah. But it's the urban growth boundaries that is outside of our city limits. Basically, what that amounts to is that if it's within our urban growth boundaries, we have a say into what happens to it. We're supposed to have a say. That is an area that is determined by this committee, and it is for Lebanon, Watertown, and Mount Juliet, and Wilson County to determine those boundaries. Also, there are some other issues come up that include density and some other things that we'll be discussing. We've had rocks thrown at us for quite some time because of the amount of growth that we've had, and when we've been asked to slow the growth, and when we have looked and put certain standards, applied certain standards to the developments that are coming in, we've had, and we said, this is what we want you to do. They say no, and then the county then would turn around and approve them anyway. The city of Mount Juliet winds up getting kind of a bad look when that happens, and it's not anything that we've done. So we just wind up kind of catching the mess. So hopefully tomorrow will be the kickoff of a meeting where we can start discussing those things, and that will be addressing the density and the growth over the next 10, 15 years, and how that's going to be approached by the city and by the county as we work together to get some good things accomplished. So for those of you that are curious about this stuff, those of you that want to know what's happening, I would invite you to come. It's at 1:30, I think, tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, here at City Hall. Mayor Hutto will be here, and other representatives from other parts of the county, the city of Lebanon, Watertown, and of course, we will have our representation from the city of Mount Juliet. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Next up is our District 2 Commissioner, Commissioner Chavette. You, sir, are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank the families out tonight that were able to come out and also online. Wanted to go ahead and also just appreciate the Public Works and Engineering team for the workshop that we had earlier for the families that didn't make it. I know there's a lot of folks that are, not always in my district, but also part of the city that are dealing with a lot of the stormwater. This board up here is doing a great job at trying to see what options that we do have and think about the long-term plans. So just great job to the engineering team and the Public Works that continues the effort in taking care of our citizens. Also, the last one, which is, this past week, I've received a lot of phone calls, which I appreciate everybody just reaching out to me, asking questions, point me in different directions so I can reach back out to the city and get them the correct answers. That's part of my job, which I'm blessed to be part of this city. I appreciate everybody just continued the effort of just allow me to serve. So that concludes my report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. At this point, I recognize District 3 Commissioners, Commissioner Hefner.
Thanks, Mayor. First off, I want to acknowledge Mount Juliet Police Department and the Fire Department. We had a massive, well, could have been worse, train derailment within the last couple of weeks. And thankfully, by the grace of God, there were no injuries, both from the derailed car and the school that was right across the street and Willoughby Station. So I want to send a special thank you to our emergency services, fire department, and our police department. I think there's still an investigation that I asked for, Chief. I think that you're working on that because I want to find out what, ultimately what caused that derailment. Could have very easily been Music City Star. Could have happened. We had citizens on that train. Thankfully, it wasn't. So I'm looking forward to getting that report. Also, Mount Juliet's hiring. So if you're looking for a job, I want to encourage everyone to come out and apply for the open positions. I know it's tough it's tough right now to get employees. So Mount Juliet, City of Mount Juliet is a great place to work. One big family. So April 2nd is our spring yard sale. That is sponsored by our Parks Departments at Charlie Daniels. And we also have on April 5th, Charlie Daniels, a special needs Easter hunt. Last but not least, want to give a shout out to my wife. She was on Talk of the Town today. So she does those from occasion on occasion. So she works at Indulgence Salon. They are doing a grand opening event on April 9th from 4 to 8, and they're on Lebanon Road. So if you're not doing anything, April 9th, come on out. They're having their grand opening. So with that, Mayor, I conclude my report.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next up is Commissioner Milali.
Okay. The restrooms on Golden Bear Gateway are officially open. We held the ribbon cutting last Friday. And what it was, the Amazon project, they were built by Amazon, no cost to the city. And they also donated 5 acres along with it. And so they officially handed it over to the city last Friday. So they are open. They will be open every day from 6 in the morning to 8 p.m. at night. So if you walk or bike, you'll have somewhere to take a break. The tomorrow, March 29th, is National Vietnam Veterans Day. So I want to recognize that and thank all the Vietnam veterans. BPAC, which is Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, their Monday night dinner walks will start back in April, this coming Monday. We meet at City Hall at 6 o'clock, and we take turns going to different places. A lot of times last year we went to Slim Chickens and then Dairy Queen once and different places, but we meet at 6 and decide where we're going to go. So we walk to dinner and then walk back. Let's see, there was something else. Oh, well. Oh, the farmer's market. I was going to mention that. That starts back, the end of April? Yeah, the end of April. You can check the city parks website for the times. And one last thing, I'm working on March newsletter, which will go out this Friday. So you can either catch it on social media or let me know your email. I'll be glad to sign you up. Or you can go to my website, jennifermilali.com, and all you have to do is sign your name and email. I send them out every month. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll start off by saying I want to thank Leadership Middle Tennessee for the opportunity to participate in their panel. It's a wonderful opportunity to come together with their other mayors in the county and answer some questions and talk about and brag about our city here out in Juliet. Also got the opportunity to take one of MTASK's wastewater classes, which learning more about our sewer system is always fun. But the real thing, I mean, you get out of this, the real value, I got to say, is meeting with other elected officials from across the state and hearing their stories and talking to them about what they're doing, what works for them. Sometimes it's hearing what doesn't work for them and making a note that we don't do that here. But, it's always good to get out there and meet other people. And, hearing some of their stories, I got to admit, we're a special city. And a lot of our problems circulate or revolve around being a new city, and we're just trying to get some things in order. For example, the wastewater, our stormwater, actually for us, stormwater utility that's on the radar. We got a young fire department, so we're a new city and we're taking on things. But it's always good to hear what other cities are doing that we could do and learn from their lessons. We'll say this, you're probably seeing a lot of political signs popping up around the community. There is an upcoming election here soon. None of us at this table are in that, so I'm not advocating for anybody up here, but I would say if you want to participate in this election, April 4th is your last day to register to vote. If you need to update your voter registration, make sure you get it done by that deadline. On April 13th, early voting will start. I believe Charlie Daniels Park is going to be one of those early voting destinations, and that election, which is going to be our county primary, will occur on May 3rd. And if you're saying, I'm not used to seeing an election on May, what's going on here? This is actually the first full-scale, I'll say, county primary that we have seen here in Wilson County. To the best of my knowledge, I can remember a couple examples of small-scale ones, but this is the first one across the board that we're seeing. So I would encourage you, if you want to participate, make sure you're ready to vote and make sure you've got your candidates looked up and your voter registration is up to date. With that, I'll recognize our city manager. Do have one question. Are we expecting a city attorney for them?
Yes, sir. And I asked Ms. Sheila Luckett to confirm that, and they're running late. Should be here momentarily. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Thanks, everybody, for coming out tonight that's in the audience tonight. For those watching from home as well, we have some special guests tonight, which is everybody in the room, but in particular, we have some friends from Leadership Wilson that are here to get their requirement. And good for her because she actually showed up. We always talk about it's an honor system. You don't necessarily have to go, but you give your word you do. So we're glad to have her. It's an awesome program, and we're happy to have her. Also, we got a young man over here on the camera. We had another young man that was here for our workshop, Nicholas Frazier. Unfortunately, it was like he had to leave. He did his shift. The young man over here, this tall, strapping lad over against the wall, is Justin Williams. I don't know if he's ever been called that in his life. Strapping lad. Everybody said the strapping lad there. From Middle Tennessee State. So we're proud of you, young man, and your mom and dad. Looks like they went back there, was talking to him, and he kept saying yes, sir, and yes, sir, and yes, sir, and things of that nature. So somebody's done a great job with him. So congratulations to MTSU. This is about the third time recently they come to their meetings as part of their requirements through their class, and very proud of them, and just want to give him a shout out. I have a city challenge going here for him. I'll get to him hopefully before he leaves, but welcome here, and he's taping it, which is good because he's on ours, Archive for Life, and he's on his as part of his class project. So I'd like to welcome him. I also like to thank everybody for participating this weekend. We had a really good turnout for our Walk Across Wilson event this weekend. That was really good. You know, not that we're in competition, but it's always neat. You look at other cities and see how well your turnout was, and ours was by far probably one of the largest turnouts. So we had a lot of fun there. Appreciate the police and fire for their escort. They always go above and beyond, and that's the first thing everybody always says. Why do you do that? And they say, well, for safety. You want to make sure that when people are walking, especially in large group, it's a bit of a distraction sometimes because people are looking, trying to figure out what your sign says and other things. And it got me to thinking as I was sitting here making my notes, and Commissioner Hefner, you brought that up about the safety with the train derailment and the police officers and firefighters. But in particular, something that's been a little concerning for me lately that something I've seen a lot of. Everybody in particular in this city that lived through it back in 2003 when we lost 2 officers that were struck in the line of duty and killed. Anybody that remembers that. So I'm always quite fearful, as everybody in the room, especially if you're a city employee or elected official, when we have police cars or city vehicles or something like that's damaged in a crash. But I'd like to give a shout out to the 2 officers that were out on the interstate recently because they may not see it this way, but I think we all see it. So I'm speaking on behalf of our elected body and our staff here, is that when you have 2 officers that are hit, the first thing you think of is, could we have done something differently? Of course, we always look at those things and sort of post-crash and say, what could we have done differently to be safe for the next time? I'm glad they weren't in their cars, but I want to let them know, in this entire community, and I know the elected body is echoing, I'm echoing basically what you feel, is that they saved lives that day, because had they not been on the interstate for that motorist that was stranded, setting their cars up the way they did, we'd likely would have had somebody could have been seriously injured or killed. We're glad that the motorist that struck the 2 police officers is okay, but that's a perfect example. Everybody's familiar. We had the emergency medical recently where the motorist was having a medical emergency, crashed into one of our traffic control boxes on Mount Jet Road after striking another vehicle. And I guess what I'm trying to allude to, and then this weekend we had a drunk driver that luckily had it not been for a couple of planners, which is the 3rd time in recent months that it had been for those planners, which Mr. Barlow knows that he kidded me about those years ago, but they saved the train arms at Mount Jet Road. Had the traffic control box went out, we'd been directing traffic with the police officers probably 24/7 until it was corrected. Had the train arms gotten damaged, we'd have been directing traffic there for school buses, things of that nature, to cross the tracks because the train would have continued to run. So just want to encourage our residents and people that traverse the roads, as driving is very serious. A lot of times you wonder if it's a medical emergency which somebody can't help, or a distracted driver either through texting or on a phone or other. And we all witness it every day when we're out and about. So I just want to encourage everybody, please be extra safe when you're driving, because it's not just the police officers and the firefighters. You got public works, you got parks folks, you got people working on the roadways, things of that nature, and just people out traversing, biking, walking, whatever, especially now that warmer weather is coming out. That's always a big concern for us because you hear about it across the state. So I wanted to make sure I covered that. So everybody, please be extra safe. We love you. We care about you, and we want to keep you and your family safe. So, Mayor, that concludes my report.
All right. Thank you, sir. With that, we will move to unfinished business. Read the first item, which is 9-1, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget ordinance 2021-19 to accept insurance proceeds and appropriate funds for replacement of damaged city property. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? All right, all in favor of 9-1, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. 9-2, a resolution authorizing a stop work order on Northtown Garden Apartments on all construction except Nonneville Road, completion effective Tuesday, March 15, 2022 at 8 a.m. Have a motion and a second. The item's on the floor. Any discussion on this? Vice Mayor, I think it's under your sponsorship.
Yes, sir. If I would like to table this at this time.
All right, we have a move to table. I'll second that. Any discussion on the advisement of tabling this item? All right, all in favor of tabling this, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the item 9-2 is tabled. We'll move now into our new business, which is ordinance 11-1, an ordinance approving the request to connect to the Mount Juliet sewer system made by 2770 Nonneville outside the city limits of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, identified as Wilson County, Tennessee, map 31, parcel 84, 85, and 86. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on 11-1? Vice Mayor?
This is not connecting to the city limits. So, I mean, it would be spot annexation if we were to get them anyway at that point, which I know it's allowed at this, but it's probably just not necessary. We had a conversation that I wanted to, so that others would know kind of the context of what we're talking about. We have a little issue. This is fortunately not one of those issues, by the way, but we've got a little issue where we've got pockets within the city limits, and those pockets are actually in the county, not in the city. But there's, what do they call them? The donut holes, I think is what they call them. And we've got people that are coming in that are in those donut holes that are asking for out of city sewer just because they don't want to be annexed into the city limits, which creates issues with emergency services and other issues. But in my mind, emergency services, the first one comes to mind because we wound up having to have mutual aid where our city police and city fire wound up going to these donut holes. And this is a mutual aid situation, which basically means that they are getting all the services that city residents get without paying for those services. Form of tax dollars. They pay their sales tax, but they're not paying property tax to the city, and they're not in the city limits. So we had a conversation, excuse me, at a recent workshop where we talked about giving out of city sewer as a 100% surcharge to anyone. Andy, that is correct, right? To anyone who gets out of city sewer. But I'm going to ask that we look at how we do that from now on. We've got one coming up on Northwest Rutland Road that kind of falls in that category tonight that we need to talk about. If it's in one of those donut holes, if it's within the confines of the city limits, but it's in the county and they want sewer, then I think we might need to start taking a little harder look at how we approach their service. So again, I want to bring this out. I want people to realize that we're talking about this so that when it comes up, it's not new to anybody. We've been talking about it for a long time, and we've been discouraging it as much as possible. I mean, it's almost to the point now where it's going to not be a discourage, it's going to be no. So get ready for it.
All right. Commissioner Milali?
Well, we did sign a resolution, pass a resolution. What was it, last year? That if you wanted sewer, you had to be annexed. But then the discussion came up, well, if they're way out of the, that was because it wasn't.
Like these guys tonight.
Yeah.
They're not within the confines.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's, so gray area right there.
So
Commissioner
Yeah.
Everett?
Thank you, Mayor. So it's non-contiguous, so it's a perfect, they cannot be annexed into the city. Correct? But we typically do not.
Typically, if it's not contiguous, we don't, but Gino has given us an opinion that even if something is not contiguous to the city limits, we can still annex it. It's not encouraged, but it's still something we can do if need be.
Understood.
We
But
have,
again, there's a good example of a
Yes, sir.
city sewer request.
Yeah.
So I was in support of supporting this. So.
yeah, we have our Public Works Director, Mr. Andy Barlow, who I think has some insight on this.
Yes, and I'm assuming we'll probably have legal counsel here pretty soon to kind of expound, or at least could expound on it a little bit more after the fact. I've actually talked about it with Gino on this very issue, talking about the non-contiguous annexation law that is in the Tennessee Code. I went through it, I've read through it, scoured through it, tried to come up with my own understanding. Basically, a residential subdivision, if you're going to, and I would probably defer some to Ms. Hamblin for qualifications, what would meet that. I think so. We have minor subdivisions and major subdivisions, which I believe is a 6-lot threshold, if I'm correct. Yes, 6 lots. And so my understanding, state law, anything above that meets the criteria for residential subdivision according to our subdivision regulations, and would thus be qualified as a residential subdivision development that would be eligible for non-contiguous annexation. Similarly, any commercial, or should I say non-residential property, commercial or industrial property, can be annexed and does not have to be contiguous. Let's say Amazon came in and they did not touch. They could be annexed under state law, my understanding. Or heck, even a gas station, if they wanted to come in and they weren't contiguous and they wanted to build on a piece of property that was not contiguous. That's my understanding of the state law and how that works. So residential has some restrictions to it, but commercial, industrial does not. They don't have to be contiguous, but there is that. There is contiguous. Right. That's correct. And that's a great point, Vice Mayor. It's all got to be in the UGB, or urban growth boundary. And so, but there is some constraint there with the residential, and that's most of what we're facing with all these requests. I'd say every single one's been residential.
Anything else, Commissioner?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Ready to vote? All in favor of 11-1, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. Next item is 11-2, an ordinance approving a request to connect to the Mount Juliet sewer system made by 1340 Northwest Rutland Road outside the city limits of Mount Juliet, identified as Wilson County, Tennessee, map 77, parcel 56.03. Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. The item is on the table. Vice Mayor?
This is the poster child, if you would, for what I'm talking about here. I mean, it fits in that donut hole. And this is probably the 5th or 6th, if I'm not mistaken, that I remember in the last couple of years that have come in from the same area. And it's not that they are building new homes. There's not any building constraints. It's not an issue about sidewalks. It's just a matter of we don't want to be in the city limits. And that's their reason, the only reason. But they do want our access to our sewer. So, again, as Commissioner Milali pointed out, we passed a resolution last year, and we wanted to put some constraints on that. We did that with that resolution, but I'm just I'm seeing where we're just pushing that off to the side and moving forward, and I'm not sure how far we move forward before we finally put our foot down and say, no, we're just not going to keep doing this.
And to catch our attorney up, Mr. Michaels, welcome. We're on 11.2, which is an ordinance for out-of-city sewer request. So I think the previous one had the question about what our options are as far as non-contiguous annexation for a single residential lot.
On these ones, were they, when you say single family residential lot, you're not saying that there's been a home built on the lot. You're saying that it's a vacant lot, correct?
I believe there is an existing home on this lot.
Yeah.
If
Is
there is not,
One
I'm
of the
seeing a no.
three?
Andy's saying no.
The Northwest Rutland Road.
Vacant lot. So they're wanting to build a house. I'm sorry, Mayor, but this is, I'm having a problem with this. They're wanting to build a house, but they don't want to follow our regulations is what it amounts to. Is that right? Is there somebody here for this?
We got our
I don't know if we have representation or not, but I can at least speak to this. So this 1340 Northwest Rutland, I believe, so it's subdivided from a larger tract. It's in the packet, but so the interstate right of way is to the rear, but the way this property was subdivided, it doesn't touch the interstate right of way, therefore it's not contiguous. I think from our perspective, that is my first inclination with this was same as y'all. We've got to put an end to all these little annexations. How many have we given on Northwest Rutland over the years? 3, 4, 5, all right here. My first recommendation was no. And then I saw that it didn't even touch city limits. Therefore, Mr. Michaels, I guess I'd be looking for your opinion on that, but it's not contiguous. Therefore, I don't know that it even meets legally the requirement.
Yeah, that's the answer I want. Can it be annexed or not?
Yeah, under 651-104 D1A, you can annex non-contiguous property within the UGB so long as it's used for industrial, commercial, or future residential development.
So since it is a vacant lot, does that qualify as future?
I believe in one of the emails in the packet, it says that they are looking to build a home on the lot. So yes.
Okay.
So my question would be, was there the lot that they subdivided? Is it on sewer?
No, it's not.
It's not on sewer. So they have soils, good soils over there for septic, correct?
Do not believe that this lot that's been subdivided off has any soils area.
Yeah, I believe that's what it said.
That's correct.
So they subdivided a lot off of another lot to build a house on and didn't check to see if they had soils and see if it would perk first, correct?
That's what it appears.
Okay. And then they want us to turn around and provide sewer, but they don't want to be in the city limits of Mount Juliet. Is that correct?
It appears that way.
Okay.
Do we know that get you on
They-
there. Sorry.
Do we know that they don't want to get annexed into the city, or were they told because under this new clarification, they can be annexed into the city?
I don't know. Yes,
Were they told, or they just refused to be annexed?
they refused. They were told they could not.
That's
Yes,
a
they were
different
told they
story.
could not because it's, yeah. So I think some of the confusion, probably something to define here. What constitutes a residential development? Can a single home be a residential development, or does it have to meet our major subdivision, which is 6 lots or more?
I think the key that I was hearing was there is no home on this, so this is future residential.
That's the way I would look at it. I mean, you could be building a 500 square foot commercial business, and that would be subject to the statute. So I wouldn't read anything into residential development other than residential development.
Okay.
So be clear. I'm hearing that they have the option to annex if they choose to.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any disagreement on that? from what's being presented here at the table?
There's no one here in representation of them. This is an ordinance. Is this first reading?
This is first reading.
Okay. Yeah, I think, Mayor, I'd make a motion to defer.
Got a motion to defer one meeting,
Yes, sir.
and I got a second on it here. So, and you want to speak to that?
I do. Is one meeting going to be enough for them to? Okay.
Be asked a question. I mean, it's basically.
Jennifer's saying yes. Okay. I'm good.
Any other discussion on deferment? All in favor of deferring for one meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 11.2 is deferred for one meeting. (11.3) An ordinance to annex into the corporate boundaries of the city of Mount Juliet approximately 26.66 acres property known as Shiloh Baptist Church, located at 1514 Pleasant Grove Road, map 76, parcel 53 and 53.01, and located within the city's urban growth boundary. I'll make a motion. You got a second? It is on the table. Any comments, questions, or discussions on this? All right. Our city manager.
Mayor, if this passes, I just want to say congratulations. I don't know if there's any representatives from the church here tonight. They've been absolutely wonderful since they set up here in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. They've been doing our
They have
Christmas tree event every year, and they've just been phenomenal to work with. So I just want to give them a bit of a shout out.
They have been very active.
Great.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of 11.3 as Vice Mayor?
There were some questions at the planning commission that were really good questions that didn't get answered. I didn't feel like weren't answered well. One of those is that there's going to be some traffic, and it's coming out at Central Pike and Pleasant Grove Road, where there's been scheduled some construction in that area to lower that hill. So I'm a little worried that I didn't get a good solid answer on that. When that traffic comes out off of Pleasant Grove onto Central Pike, that's a horrible little hill right there where that light's at. Is that going to be addressed prior to them building?
Go ahead.
All right, sure. So as part of the Villages of Pleasant Grove Road project, they are committed to improving that intersection. Taking care of that safety problem was really the purpose of that. That is required by the ordinance for them to have that completed by August 1st of next year.
So it's required to be done prior to Shiloh?
I think, well, there's a potential Shiloh could have construction done. I think they have a pretty advantageous schedule of what they're wanting to do. There's potential that they could get constructed and opened prior to that time.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm asking. Is that going to be seems that that's a pretty dangerous spot.
It is. I would probably, I know it was discussed at the planning commission. Was that? Yeah. Yeah, it was discussed at planning commission. I think there's some options as far as that's a very short-term issue because the problem would be addressed with the future improvements at the intersection to help take away the safety problem. And so the idea of police doing traffic control at that intersection at the time that the church lets out is I think was agreed to by the Shiloh church. I don't know, I guess pastor or representative at the planning commission meeting. And so I see that as a very viable short-term solution, and allowing them to keep on going and still trying to address the safety problems.
This is first reading on this, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So I would ask that maybe the representatives from the church be here because, I mean, bad case scenario, a horrible case scenario would be for that church to be open and 300 to 500 people leaving at one time on a Sunday afternoon, going out at that location when it hadn't been lowered, or even worse, I think, being in the process of being lowered in the construction zone. So there would probably need to be some mitigation done there on the traffic impact.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably, I mean, I'm talking about hiring somebody from the, police department to do some work in that area to make sure that the traffic impacts are lessened.
Agreed. And I don't want to make any concessions on their behalf for sure. I think this is just based on discussions from the planning commission.
Yeah, right. What we got before us though is an annexation.
That's correct. Mhm.
So, Commissioner Milali.
I have a question. Isn't there already a church there? Are they building a new one?
So they do, I believe.
They have a
you
single
probably-
family home that they're using for offices, but they do have some meetings that are intense. So there is some limited traffic coming out of there. I would say maybe infrequently. I don't know how often.
Yeah.
Is there anything you?
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor. Just infrequent. They do have most of their services there in the home or in the tents that's on site. It's a rather small congregation at the moment. I think they're looking more toward the future with their building and then growing their congregation.
Okay.
I think they'd be very pleased if they had 300 to 500.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I will note on this, one of the big purposes for annexation is access to sewer. And so we've just gone through out of city sewer requests. This is an example of somebody coming in wanting to get annexed and going through it the way that we prefer to have as far as having them be part of the city.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor of this item 11.3, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ordinance carries on first reading. Next item on the agenda is 11.4, an ordinance amending fiscal year 2021-2022 budget ordinance 2021-19 to accept proceeds from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, TEMA, and appropriate the funds for the replacement of park supplies and equipments lost and damaged by the March 28, 2001 flood event. I'm sorry, 2021 flood event. Yeah.
It took a while.
Yeah. Some things are slow, but not that slow. Thanks, Gilly. Have a motion and a second. Maybe we can streamline some other things. Any questions or comments on this? All in favor of the item as read, please signify by saying aye. Or maybe I should say read and corrected. Our city manager has a comment.
I should have jumped in and said, I'd like to thank FEMA and TEMA. They've been phenomenal along with finance, working so hard because we've unfortunately had our own fair share of disasters over the last few years with the 2010 flood, the tornadoes, and of course, this flood event as well. So great job.
Yep, a year ago today. And that, I have that recorded as all 5 in favor, so that carried. 11.5, the City of Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners desires to clarify the official city holidays. City manager? I'm sorry, do we have I have a motion and a second. City manager, all right.
Yes, Mayor, there's been, of course, some additional holidays added over the years. I think I may have talked to several of you, if not all of you individually about this. So we're just looking to encompass all the federal holidays into one recognition and then list those individually in our ordinances and our policy manual as well.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All in. Did you have? Oh,
I've been waiting all day long to have this
well,
conversation.
there you have the floor.
Because I got to tell you, I can't tell you the number of phone calls that I've gotten. I'm not going to point out from who, but every one of them are at this table tonight. When they've come to City Hall and they've gone, why is City Hall closed? And then, well, it's a holiday. No, the holiday was yesterday. Oh, no. Yeah, I guess it was yesterday. So why are they closed today? Well, I don't know. They take all these holidays off. These are the conversations that we'll have. So all these board members that are sitting up here have made these conversations, had these conversations and made these comments like, my God, I wish I worked for the city of Mount Juliet. I have every day off. And then we're going to clarify and we're going to put on, if a holiday falls on a Saturday, it will be observed on the preceding Friday. Why? Why would you do that? That's the way it's always been. That makes perfect sense to me. If it falls on let's see here, if it falls on a Sunday, it'll be served on the following Monday.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, why? I'm trying to figure out why. I mean, they get Kelly days and holidays. Police department gets Kelly days. Yeah.
I've never had a Kelly day.
You don't have them, but the police department does.
I saw the Kelly Day look there, so.
Yeah.
I'll try to, and I think it's a reasonable question. Vice
I hope
Mayor.
so.
And I know from my life attorney, holidays have always been recognized. And I agree. I think the reason they recognize what they do is so that they're paying appropriate respect to the particular holiday and the individual, if there is an individual associated with that holiday. For example, Christmas, Thanksgiving, sometimes people are traveling. So it's to recognize that, sort of build in that time so they've got some travel. There's probably no perfect example or that I could give, but that's the best one I know to give in talking with other cities and communities. The vice mayor is correct. I know it's looked at that way anytime you work in government. There's that appearance of that, but we recognize the same holidays that every other community and county does, and the federal government.
Well, again, I love the idea that when this happens, it's a Friday before the holiday, and all the city employees have got the day off, and then me and others have had all these conversations about why are we doing this? Don't even act like it. I don't even want to. No, don't even act like it. Okay, I'm not sure whether I may leave you out just because I don't remember. Okay, but the group that was up here prior, that I know for a fact, every one of them, we would have those conversations.
Well, I just say it's not uncommon where I work. We either celebrate if it falls on a Friday or a Monday. I don't know. Commissioner Chavette, you asked for the floor.
Yeah, obviously, yes. Me and the vice mayor did discuss this, and I do come from the private sector with my job, and I do appreciate the 11 paid holidays that I do get. And I feel that is something to help sweeten the pot when we are looking for talent for the city. And if we did kind of take that away, I think we would keep ourselves a little bit, have more challenges, because again, I think everybody needs to appreciate what we do have, which is our family. And I think personally, that's why we take these days off. If the holidays fall on the weekends, yes, for the folks that, we got to look at it with this, the folks that are maybe our groundskeepers. Okay. I look at it from there all the way up to the city manager. Why do we go to work every day? Is for our families. So, hey, I'm a supportive of this. Yes, I got to get used to it because there's some of us up here that love to work and we love to serve our community. So we're working 24/7, 365. So I just want to go ahead and make it known. Yes, we did discuss it, but I'm also in support of making sure that we take care of our city workers. So there you go, Mayor or Vice Mayor.
Commissioner Hefner.
Yes, I was another one that did come from the private sector. I think I got 5 holidays. But we have employees here that they don't work 9 to 5. I mean, they're working when there's a tornado or an event. I mean, they work sometimes 24, 48, 70. I mean, it's nonstop. So to me, I see it as Commissioner Chavette stated, it's a retention and recruitment tool. If they're going to pick private sector over working for the city, I like it as an advantage to be able to recruit folks. And by the way, I did mention it during my opening comments. The city is hiring, so if this does pass, think of all the holidays you're going to get. Now, how many sick days do they get? How many sick days do we get? Is it 37 sick days? Sick days?
We earn 8 hours a month after your first full month of employment.
All right. So there you go. Everybody come. We got plenty of jobs ready to get filled. So.
Well, I'll be honest. I didn't know you didn't have the days off. I thought I just assumed you did. I don't know. But to me, being in corporate, it follows right along. I know this is government, but it's kind of what I'm used to anyway in corporate. And I know, because I'm always working to 1, 2, 3 in the morning sending out emails. So just because I send you one and you're not at work doesn't mean you have to respond, just when you get back to work. So anyway, I support it.
Right. Vice Mayor?
Now that I got that all opened up, aired that out and threw everybody under the bus, I feel so much better, by the way. I will tell you that I come from government. Over 20 years as a police officer, we never got holidays off, did we, Kenny? I mean, we worked the holidays. I don't care. I mean, I worked pretty much every single Christmas. And that's what police officers do. It's what firefighters do. Most of our city employees up here, I will tell you, a good example here, had a conversation with Kenny Martin at 11 o'clock the other night. Who works at 11 o'clock if you're not on duty? Andy, you do not work at 11 o'clock. Chasing your daughter around the house is not considered a city work. We have a good example up here, somebody that does work, I mean, pretty much 24/7 in Kenny Martin. So if the rest of the employees that he leads at the city of Mount Juliet do that, I don't have a problem with them taking extra days off. But when City Hall is closed and I start getting those phone calls, just let you know, those phone calls they come to us because y'all are not here to answer telephones. So just want to point that out. Okay. So we do thank you for what you do.
Our city manager.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, for those kind words. And if you would, if there's any calls that come in at those particular times, if after hours, whatever, feel free. That's part of my job. Call me, and I can always then direct those calls on to the appropriate department or person. Anytime.
Well, that's true. I texted him one time about a sign on a police ride along, I think at 2 a.m, and we circled the block again, and he's out there in a pickup truck at like 3 a.m. in somebody's yard cleaning up something. And
as well to make sure I wasn't up to no good because the truck wasn't properly marked.
yeah, that's true. We pulled you over on the next block because we saw all we saw was an individual running through a yard grabbing things. So
I was in Hickory Hills. I remember that vividly. First time in years I'd gotten stopped. I was usually on the other end of that stop. So I promised to make that commitment.
So it is true. The city manager there's no office hours there. Well, with that said, all in favor of 11.5, did I miss somebody? Anybody else have any comments? All right. All in favor of 11.5 as read, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Good news, city employees, you get to see your families. 11.6, a resolution authorizing the execution of a contract between the city of Mount Juliet and Harlem Court LLC for construction of tennis and pickleball courts at Jerry Mundy Memorial Park. Ooh, I heard a motion.
Second.
On a second. Any questions or comments on this one? We got Commissioner Milali.
I just want to say, finally, in government, it's one thing I learned in government. I've been in it, 2.5 years. The process of it takes to do things, anyway, I'm just glad it's here.
Yes, it is. It is public money, so we have a few more steps to go through to make sure there are some safeguards in place, some bidding and studies and stuff. Any other questions or comments on 11.6? All right, all in favor of 11.6 is read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Believe it or not, I think everybody voted for that one. Next item on the agenda is 11.7, a resolution to support restoring the historic revenue sharing relationship between the state of Tennessee and its local governments and return the local share of the single article cap to local governments. A motion And I'll second on that one. This is under our city manager sponsorship. So if you want to say something about this.
Absolutely, Mayor, and I'll defer here in just a minute to our financial expert in the house, Ms. Dana, but want to get this in front of you all. It was something that was taken, I'd say removed or taken years ago, and so I'm going to defer to Ms. Dana for the details, but it's a very good opportunity for the city.
Basically, what this is supporting TML's efforts to have the state legislator restore the state sharing relationship that they've had with between the states and the cities back years ago. It changed in 2002 when the state had some economic difficulties, and they increased the sales tax percentage from 6 to 7, but they did not share that with the cities. And they also increased the single article cap from 1,600 to 3,200, but did not share that increase with the cities. So what TML is trying to do is restore that relationship now that there's no longer the economic difficulties that the state is facing. So this resolution just supports their efforts and promotes passing that legislation. And if they do pass it, it could be, the city could see an increase of roughly $600,000 per year. So that's what this is just a support of TML's efforts to restore that relationship.
On that percentage increase on there.
Mhm.
Commissioner Milali.
Do we get back pay?
Let's go.
Damn it.
Let's go see the chancellor.
Oh.
Anyone else? Vice Mayor.
Definition, please, for a single article cap. What does that mean?
It's for a single purchase, a big purchase. There's a tax rate at like 1,600. It was capped for, and that's what the state would share with the cities. Then they capped it. They increased the cap to 3,200, where they would top the tax on it, but they didn't share that with the cities. So
That's-
just
So you're talking about like a pickup truck or
Mhm.
something like a large
a large
purchase.
purchase.
The
Yes,
sales
it's a single.
tax cap.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're keeping all of it above 1,600.
Yes.
All right. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes. I think I even seen somebody in the audience raise their hand, so. Resolution 11-8, a resolution adopting the official zoning map of the city of Mount Juliet. Have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments, or discussion on this?
Mr. Michaels?
Yes, sir, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor, we got into a little bit of a mess, and I think we got out of it now with the future land use plan. When we adopted that, and I think it was in 2008 that we adopted it. And then we found out that because we had adopted the future land use plan, it turned out that the city commission could not change that it was actually put in the hands of the planning commission to do that. Recently, we learned that because of the fact that when that was done at state legislature, the amendment, and it took 5 of our counties in our judicial district out. But because we were actually voted and became home rule, we were exempt from it. And so now it's called the future land use plan is back in the hands of the city commission. But what prompted that to begin with was the adopting of the plan by the city commission, and that put it into the hands of the planning commission. And I want to make sure that doesn't happen on any other level. So my question is, does that do anything to us limit our ability to change zoning, being the Board of Commissioners?
This does not. No.
Okay.
This is just the
Yeah,
map.
we got caught in a quandary on that one, so.
Any other questions or comments on the adoption of the map? All in favor of 11-8 as signified, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Next item on the agenda is 11-9, which is an appointment to the Wilson County Coordinating Committee, 2 appointments by the largest municipality, appointed by the mayor. With that, I'm going to appoint, they both agreed to serve, but I'm going to appoint our Vice Mayor, Ray Justice, and our Planning Director, Jennifer Hamlin, to the committee. The next item is 1110, which this one requires a vote of the board to adopt, which is to the coordinating committee. And I'm going to ask Mr. Kenny Martin to serve in that role. And that's going to be my appointment that I'm going to submit here to the board. So, is there any questions or comments on 1110? Right. All in favor of Mr. Martin serving in the role, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. So we got a 5-0. We do, next item on the agenda is adjournment, but we do have one item that we've tabled. Is there any appetite for bringing that back from the table? No. Yes, sir.
Okay. In conversations with Mr. Barlow and some of the others, Matt White, Ray Armstrong, they have a plan worked out with the Live Development folks, where they have now started to widen Honorable Road on the east side, and all the barrels have been removed and moved back off of the road. So this opened the road up considerably, which is what we were trying to get accomplished anyway. So it's been taken care of partially, and I want to table it rather than to just dismiss this, because if there's a problem later on down the road, I want the opportunity to be able to come back and use this.
I just wanted to make sure that.
Yes, sir.
Before we adjourn. All right. The next item is adjournment. Any objection? All right. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned.
Thank you.